XAUUSD, popularly known as the gold spot. I'm here to open a position on this asset so far as this week started, as I continue to monitor price action within a range. But before we go into the details here, I would like us to run through the higher time frame so that we can have an holistic perspective on what is going on in the market. Let us be on the same page together, so when I discuss here on the 1 hour time frame, you will understand better. So we shall be looking at the higher time frame right away. Now, the first thing I did here was to scale up into the daily time frame. And for those who have been following me on the XAUUSD in the recent times, you will be familiar with the structure we have on the daily time frame. And of course, it is quite clear that price action has been bullish since the last quarter of last year. But that is not where our center of focus will be, as we shall be mainly focusing on the nature of price action since the month of March. And one thing you will notice here since the month of March is how the 1900 and the 1890 zone has been a strong buying niche in this market. Ever since price broke out of that structure in the month of March, we saw that every time price comes into that area, sellers have continued to struggle to break through that area. So buyers at every point in time come in to negate the potentials of the sellers. Now, in addition to that demand zone is the descending trend line you will see on your chart. Now, since price tested that new high at the $2,078 level after connecting the series of lower highs here, we have a trend line. Now, the trend line gives us an insight into the characters of sellers in this market, but we can't jump into conclusion that this is a strong bearish momentum. And the reason why that is simply because price is yet to find a lower low. So despite the lower highs here, just like what we had on the GBP USD, you will see how the 1900 and the 1890 has been negating the potentials of sellers here. So the inability of sellers to break down the structure for me is a sign that we might likely be seeing a breakout of that descending trend line. But we are not jumping into conclusions here, as we still need to monitor and see how the market will be reacting to this trend line. Now, to guide our trading activities for this week, I have identified a key level that we shall be using to guide our trading activity, and that is that psychological level at the 1950 area. Now, look at this 1950 since the beginning of this year. Look at how that area had played a major role in determining how price action will be moving. Now, at the beginning of the year, we saw how that level was a strong selling niche at some point before price broke out of that structure here. As you will see, we saw the breakdown happen here after a long choppy scenario. The same choppy scenario also happened during the month of July, stroke the early days of the month of August before price broke down that structure. Now, during the course of last week's trading session, after that rejection of that demand zone here, we saw how price came back to close just exactly around the 1950 level. Now, one interesting thing about the 1950 level at this juncture, where price action closed last week, is the fact that it also shares a beautiful confluence with that descending trend line. So now the question going into the new week right now is, will price action break out of that descending trend line? Considering this demand zone we have been noticing here, will price break out of that descending trend line and the key level at the 1950 to incite an uptrend continuation? That is one scenario we are going to be looking at in a moment. Or is price going to be respecting that trend line where continued selling pressure below the 1950 will welcome selling opportunities that might likely break down the 1900 for the first time this year to incite a sell-off? Now, to have a better perspective into what is going on here, and how to position ourselves for today's trading session, we are going to be zooming right into that area around the 1950 to see how the participant in this market will be reacting to that zone. Now let's scale down into the 1 hour time frame to see how participants in this market has been reacting to the 1950 since this new week began. Now, when we scale down into the 1 hour time frame, this is what I was able to come up with here. So while trying to dissect the structure, this is what I was able to find. Now, since the beginning of this week, though the week started on a strong bullish momentum, as you will see here, we saw price begin the week around the $1,939.50 level. We saw this engulfing bullish candle into the structure, and as soon as price tested the 1,946 level, we saw selling pressure come into that structure. Now, what this simply tells us is that there is an uncertainty in this market, as you will see that since the new week has begun, price has remained confined within the 1,946 and the $1,939.50 level to emphasize the level of indecision in this market. And you all know how we do it in this community. Whenever price action falls into a range such as what we have here, we want to exercise patience, waiting for a signal to come either in the form of a breakout of the resistance line to give us an opportunity to buy, or wait for the breakdown of the support line at the $1,939.50 level to look out for selling opportunity. And since none of these levels have been broken out of, we want to be exercising patience around this area. So we have a range where we are looking at right now. If price breaks down the $1,939.50 level, then we shall be looking out for selling opportunities here, while we shall be looking out for more opportunities to maximize this bearish momentum if price action goes on to break down the 1,935 level. So that is how we are going to be selling the XAUUSD today. So let's look out for selling opportunities as soon as price breaks down, retest the $1,939.50 level, then look out for more opportunities at the breakdown of the 1,935. Now, in as much as we're looking out for selling opportunities at this juncture, remember that we are not always putting our eggs in one basket. We want to be as dynamic as possible, have an open mindset in such a way that even if price does not follow through with our expectations, we are also ready to capitalize on the bullish momentum. Now, in this case scenario here, for us to consider buying, what is it that we want to see in this market that will make us consider buying this asset? Now, price is back into that support line. Remember, a level which has been a demand zone since the beginning of this week. This is where we saw those engulfing candles spring out of during the early hours of today. Now, if buy pressure resumes around this area, we might be seeing some buying opportunities above the $1,941.50 level. Now, let me zoom right in so that we can see things clearly here. Now, the reason why I have spotted the $1,941.50 level, this level right here, the reason why I have that level marked out on this chart is this. Now, if we look at the impulsive move that started on Friday, we saw this strong bearish momentum bringing price into the zone. We saw price come back into that $1,941.50 level. Then we saw price come back into the $1,939, giving us something that looks like a double bottom structure, which from a technical standpoint is a very strong reversal pattern. And you all know how we do it whenever we have this transition of price action. The next thing we want to be doing is to identify the neckline. Now, that is where the $1,941.50 level comes in. So we have the neckline of this double bottom structure along the $1,941.50 level. And of course, we saw the breakout of this neckline happen this morning. And in fact, a retest of that structure should be a good confirmation to join an uptrend continuation. The price action has broken that structure a little bit to the downside, but I'm of the opinion that if we have a situation where price climbs back above that level, where a retest of structure happens on our lower time frame, we want to be part of an uptrend scenario where a further continuation to the upside, breaking out of the resistance line at the $1,946 level, will be welcoming more buying opportunities. And if this continues to the upside, a further breakout of the 1,950 level will be welcoming more buy position. So this is how we are going to be managing our positions on the XAUUSD for today. It's a simple setup. Don't let us get it complicated. Our center of focus for today is simply between this range. So I would like to do a quick reference to the levels that we are going to be using to guide our trading activity. So the first one here is selling opportunities. Let's talk about the selling opportunities here. So if we are going to be selling the XAUUSD, we want to see the breakdown retest of the $1,939.50 level to capitalize on a selling opportunity. Now, if price continues to drop to the downside, then a breakout retest, breakdown retest of the 1,935 will be welcoming more selling opportunities. Now, if price action instead continues to the upside, and I told you that a breakout retest of this $1,941.50 level, I said something here. We had the reversal pattern like a double bottom structure here. Hold on a second. We had it right here, and we had the 1,941.50 as the neckline of that structure, where if price begin to fight by pressure around this area, we shall be joining an uptrend continuation. Now, if price goes on to break out of the 1,946, I said we shall be adding more buy positions, and a further breakout of the 1,950 will welcome more opportunities to buy. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. It's a simple setup, so you do want to be marking out these levels on your chart, as you will be needing them as a reference point to guide your independent trading decisions for today. So these are my views here on the XAUUSD. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop them in the comment section.